Biggest NHL Busts, Doug Wickenheiser. Doug Wickenheiser is forever remembered as the player the Montreal Canadiens passed on hometown hero Denis Savard for. Even though Wickenheiser had a decent career, he never lived up to first overall expectations, while Savard became a Hall of Famer. For the Montreal Canadiens, the team that drafted Wickenheiser, if they had drafted Denis Savard, who knows how dominant they would have been. In this episode of Biggest NHL Busts, I discuss why Doug Wickenheiser is a bust and what could have prevented this from happening. Doug Wickenheiser was one of the most hyped prospects leading up to the 1980 NHL draft. His dominance in junior hockey, particularly with the Regina Pats of the WHL, established him as a can't-miss talent. Wickenheiser had an incredible final season with the Regina Pats in the 1979-80 season, scoring 89 goals and 81 assists for 170 points in just 71 games. He led the league in goals and points, earning WHL Player of the Year honors and solidifying himself as the top prospect. At 6'1" and over 190 pounds, he was considered a prototypical power forward for his era, combining size and skill. Scouts admire his ability to play a strong two-way game while dominating offensively. Wickenheiser was also seen as a mature player with strong character, making him a natural choice to lead a team both on and off the ice. The buzz around Wickenheiser was fueled by his size, scoring ability, leadership qualities, and potential to develop into a franchise center in the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens selected Wickenheiser first overall in 1980, passing over Denis Savard, a dynamic local talent who was also highly touted. Canadiens fans and media were vocal about their preference for Savard, believing his style of play would fit the team's tradition better. The decision to draft Wickenheiser created immense pressure for him, placing lofty expectations on the first overall pick, particularly in the high-pressure environment of Montreal. Wickenheiser struggled to adjust to the NHL game and the expectations in Montreal. He played for just 3 seasons with the Canadiens, where his scoring was modest, never surpassing 25 points in a season. In 1984, Wickenheiser was traded to the St. Louis Blues after a brief stint with the Vancouver Canucks. This marked a turning point as he found his stride in a more supportive environment. His best season was in 1984-85 with 55 points, 20 goals, and 35 assists. He became a Blues hero in Game 6 of the 1986 Campbell Conference Finals against Calgary, scoring the tying goal and assisting on the overtime winner, cementing himself in franchise lore. He played for the New York Rangers and Washington Capitals during his final NHL seasons, serving as a role player and veteran presence, but saw his production decline. In total, Wickenheiser played 10 seasons in the NHL, playing in 556 games, tallying 111 goals, 165 assists, and 276 points. While his career didn't quite live up to the immense hype of a top pick, he carved out a respectable role and is fondly remembered, particularly with the St. Louis Blues. Despite Wickenheiser having a solid NHL career, he is still a bust because he never panned out with the Montreal Canadiens, who selected him over eventual Hall of Famer Denis Savard. Even though Wickenheiser carved out a decent NHL career, he never lived up to the hype of being a first overall pick, and there were a few Hall of Famers drafted after him. Besides Denis Savard, other Hall of Famers drafted after him include defenseman Larry Murphy and forward Yari Curry, as well as multiple-time All-Stars Bernie Nichols and Steve Larmer. What could have prevented him from being a bust? The worst thing to happen to Doug Wickenheiser was getting drafted to the Montreal Canadiens, whose fans and media made it clear they never wanted him there, as they wanted Denis Savard. Not every player is cut out for playing in a cutthroat market like Montreal, where the media is known to be toxic. A young player's development is very important, and the Montreal Canadiens at the time were not interested in developing young talent, as they were more focused on winning championships. If Wickenheiser was drafted to a team like the St. Louis Blues from the start, he might have turned into a really impactful player for them, instead of the journeyman he became. Doug Wickenheiser is a bust of a pick for the Montreal Canadiens, because he only played for 3 seasons with them, compared to the 951 games that Denis Savard played for the Chicago Blackhawks.